I think we will begin. It is 10 o'clock. I see we have 53 participants, which is amazing. I'm so happy that we've had this opportunity to connect with all of our core French teachers. I would like to begin with the land acknowledgement, la reconnaissance du terrain. So I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, and Potawatomi and Delaware nations. Each day we greet and honor the original inhabitants of the land and strive to strengthen our relationship with them. I'm thankful to be welcomed on these lands in friendship. We are all treaty people, and acknowledging that reminds me of the important connection we have to the land where we learn and work. I live under Treaty Number 21, also known as the Longwood Purchase. I am grateful for the rivers, lakes, and streams that surround us. I use these bodies of water for recreation with my friends and family. You can see that the pictures I have posted are, the one is from Ipperwash Beach. Another one is a cottage we went up in Northern Ontario. And then the flowers are from my garden because I really enjoy gardening throughout the summer. The open spaces on this land provide me with places to walk, garden, as I mentioned, and enjoy the time outdoors. I pledge to care for this land and water and accept our responsibility to take what we need and leave enough for others so that it can be enjoyed for all future generations. All right, so I want to just officially welcome you to our session. I am so excited to see so many teachers joining us. We're going to use this time just as the time that you can share and connect. We know that it's hard to connect everyone together in our board and from all of our different schools. So we want this to be an opportunity for you to share with one another, share what is working, share different resources that you're using. And at the end, I would also like to share some of the online resources that we have. So all those online licenses that you could be using with your students. So if we start by sharing one thing that is going well for you and your students this year. So if you want to just participate, maybe put up your hand and hopefully we can see, hopefully between Meghan and I, we can see who's willing to share. If not, just shout it out. It is completely fine to do it kind of like a popcorn style as well.
I can see the chat now.
Oh, I can see Philip, I believe. Monsieur Longpré, bonjour.
Bonjour.
How are you?
I'm excellent. I would say one of the great things for the start of this year is kind of the normalcy, being able to see faces, being able to show our expressions and how we're pronouncing words and being able to see their mouths move. So I've found that to be such a bonus to my program because that was really hard the last couple of years when you rely on a lot of oral talk to not be able to see who's participating properly and for them to be modeled by you. So that's been very nice.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, it is nice to be back to normal, right? I think our students are pretty excited to be back in class as well.
Sophie mentioned that Smash is going really well for her. She likes having the students working on something while she sets up as a Rotary French teacher.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear you using that program.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I see Sammy has her hand up.
Hi, hello, bonjour. Yeah, so this year I'm fortunate to be back at my school again. So I already have the sense of relationship with all my students, which has been a bonus. And like Phil said, it's great having the sense of normalcy to see faces and see each other's mouths moving and being able to recognize the phonetics and the sounds with my younger students has been a huge hit. I do basically nothing but games during my French time. I'd like to get my kids up and moving. So my little kids really like the movement games. So we just play around with words of movements like levez-vous, asseoir, dance, marche, and they just love it. They think it's hilarious because I just shout out random words and they try and they are recognizing the action by doing it. They think it's a game and it's hilarious. But upstairs, when I have my older kids, I start all of my classes with comment ça va, regardless, but upstairs we time each other. So it's a competition to see who can get the fastest time by tossing the classroom stuffy around, and they're all doing comment ça va and talking to each other, and I'm listening in while they're doing it. It's large enough for me to be able to plug in my computer and just get everything up and moving. And by the time it's my turn at the very end, I'm ready to go. So just having like a mini activity for the kids to do on their own, just to get the class set up, is always a great idea.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we always are looking for good opportunities to get our students speaking, right? So promoting that oral conversation, engaging. The idea of games is amazing. That'll, like you said, a little bit of friendly competition, that always helps as well.
Aleesha Dawson mentioned the fourth year magic. I always say the fourth year magic. The kids know her, they've got their groove together, and everything's working really well. And Alicia Price said her SK1 class, they're speaking French and responding appropriately.
Oh,
That's
wonderful.
amazing.
Okay,
And the game Pamplemousse,
oh,
Rena Guilford. She's loving that. They've made it to 115. Wow.
oh, wow.
That's amazing.
Oh, I see. Is it Devin? I'm trying to see. I have a couple hands raised. Devin Crawford.
Hey,
Good morning. How are
good
you?
morning.
Good
Are you
morning.
able to hear me?
Yep, we hear
Awesome.
you.
I just wanted to share along an activity or a resource that we've been using is the Planet French and Guy Canada, and all the integration of like world news and French culture. It's been really neat using it in my social studies course instead. Finally have a French immersion social studies course that I'm teaching, and it's seems a lot more relevant. I was using it as kind of like a minds-on with certain older students in core French to kind of get their minds started on and hear some French, simple French, his videos. And so if you take a look, you'll see that it actually is a very diverse levels in Planet French. And then now, because I'm in a French immersion and they can tackle some more deeper subjects, we've used his more news of the world around, and then that helps with our geography and social studies. It's really been awesome.
Great. I'm happy to hear. That is a great program. Everyone has I guess a membership, so you can, if you do not have a membership to Planet French or you don't have access, just send me an email and I will get an account set up for you. Because like Devin mentioned, there's videos, it'll get your students speaking, and it goes from K to 12. So there's a large selection of curriculum. Like you said, there's your science, your social studies, current news events, and he's always posting new stuff. There's always weekly updates. So it's definitely a great site to help support your French program. Thank you, Devin. See another hand. Who is it? Matt. I believe. Yep.
Morning, everybody. One thing that I've tried this year that's really helped with some of my early finishers is and really strong intermediate students. When they're getting work done early, what I did was I took the Delph practice book. It was time consuming, but photocopied it, and I was able to find the audio recordings that go with, well, especially like the listening comprehension chapter, and organize them in a Google slide. So when students are done their work, rather than just like Duolingo or Lookit or Gimkit, a couple students are actually pursuing completing that A1 practice guide, after we're done, or after they're done their coursework. So more specifically with like students who have experience with French outside of the classroom, or previously were in like a French immersion or a French first language school and moved to the area. I was just kind of finding myself scrambling to keep them engaged and entertained, once they completed the rest, our coursework for the day. So I'm seeing some good results with kids kind of working their way through that A1 study guide and choosing activities, and then having a shared Google slide that they can revert to for the audio to complete the activities. And it's just kind of nice for me because all the answers are in those books, and it's pretty easy to go through. I can even, with one student, I've shared the answer, so they're just like looking over their own work and evaluating it themselves. So just a bit of a time saver, because it's kind of hard to constantly come up with engaging like where to next activities when they complete what we're working on in class.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Is that the ABC Delph? Is that the book you're referring to?
Yeah, we have at my school, we have like the A1 and we have the A2. Like the A1 is like the blue one. It's like Réussir le Delph. And it's no, this one is it's called Réussir le Delph at our A1. I think we've had it. I think it's about 10 years old. I think when I looked at the date, it's a blue book and it has a CD-ROM. So the biggest barrier for me was how do I have the kids access the audio? Because with Chromebooks,
Right.
like, you know, we couldn't. So I was able to find it online and then download it. And fortunately, the audio files downloaded to MP3. So then you can just, you know, create a Google slide organized by, I just organize it by page number. So then within each page number, there will be, you know, X amount of recordings, and, you know, these students are able just to kind of access them independently, because that was always like a struggle, like what to do with students who have like significantly more experience than, you know, your average core French intermediate student, and trying to keep them challenged and keep their French improving. So that's really helped, for me anyways. And, you know, the students are motivated enough to pursue it. So it's working. So
That is great. And I did want to guide the conversation into the DELF as well today, in hopes that we are teaching to the DELF, especially in our intermediate classrooms. I have some books that I will be handing out to core French teachers as well. So we do have maybe an updated version for you, Matt, of the ABC DELF with different activities. Well, I think that is something that if we teach to the DELF, we will have more students that will challenge it, because we are going to run it or continue to run it with grade 12 students. And that's our core French and French immersion. So if we can teach to the DELF the whole way along, it won't be new language. They'll understand the activities, and then hopefully they can challenge the exam with a lot more confidence. So that's wonderful to hear that you are teaching and using those DELF books. Thank you for sharing. Is there anybody else who would like to share how it's going, different things you're doing with your students?
There are more examples in the chat. So sorry, I've gone through the pile now. So somebody has modified Pamplemousse to be in multiples of 5, and then they say a word from their vocabulary instead of Pamplemousse when they get there. So I thought that was a fun way to do that. Primary students are loving Chatterpix. I've never used that, so I'd love to hear about that one. And Chez Kia with numbers and Halloween words. And I'm still going through here. Hot potato question game. Pass a toy around a circle, and when the music stops, they spin a spinner and with a question that they're familiar with, and then they have to answer with one of their answers, or one of the toys that they have in their hand. Oh, when Blue Kit crashed, someone switched to Gym Kit, which I haven't tried. You call it Gym Kit or Gym Kits? Oh, that's Sammy. Hi, Sammy.
Yeah, it's called GimKit, and actually a couple of years ago before COVID, Corey Junior had mentioned it at one of our like networking things, and she's like, GimKit, my kids love it, and it is a subscription, so you do have to pay for it. So I did the 2-week trial upstairs with my older kids, and it was a massive hit. So because of that, I did pay for the annual subscription, but it's been one of the best investments ever. We do technology days. So tech day on Thursday, we do French using technology based on an activity I pick, or I'll ask them what they feel like doing, or we'll flick a spinner. And we'll do different things with tech. So we've done exploring word reference, exploring Duolingo. We've just done stuff together. We play GimKits. We've done some stuff on Seesaw where they have to record their voices. So using tech on Jeudi was the idea. So technology D, they know they get tech, but they don't know what they're doing on the tech until the day shows up.
Nice idea.
Is GimKit similar to like a Boom Cards? Like, are you buying different things to go with it, or?
No, it's just GimKit. You just pay for the subscription, and what you do is a series of games using a GimKit or a kit list that you make. So you create the list of vocabulary. So you got the French and the English. So it's a lot like Blue Kit. So you have your vocab list, and then you just pick the game that you want to apply to. There's a Jeopardy style. They like playing the Among Us version. There's an Among Us on there essentially. Trust no one. There's humans versus zombies. There's tag domination. Floor is Lava is really popular with my kids too, and Draw That, so they can actually draw vocab, and then whoever guesses it gets bonus points with the French vocab word. So it's a writing thing too, a little bit sometimes.
Nice one.
Oh, that's great.
Which program did you use for the draw?
Sorry. just to add what you're saying, I gotta second the like how effective GimKit is as a learning tool. What I love most about GimKit, I'm not sure if you guys are using this as well, but the audio recording features. So I mean, Blookit has now, or Bluekit, whatever, they allow that now too. But the nice thing with GimKit is you can record your voice asking the questions. So you could even record your voice as the question, have like visual answers, so pick answers. So like I've had students even as young as grade 3 using GimKit, and they love it. And the other side of GimKit that's amazing is the financial literacy component, because in certain versions they're like investing in themselves, they're purchasing upgrades, they'll buy insurance so that they don't lose as many points when they get answers incorrect, streak multipliers, question bonuses. And the really awesome thing about GimKit is some of those versions or game modes that were mentioned, like the Fishtopia version, the tag domination, the capture the flag, and they have a new one now. It's called Farm Chain. They're modes where all the students like together live on the TV, like they're all running around the same map together. So they have their own characters. But you know, everything revolves around either getting energy or getting some kind of financial currency like Gimbucks or whatever. And in order to acquire that, they have to answer questions. So it's a huge motivator for students. And it would be a wonderful one that maybe we could have covered by the board, since it's such an awesome educational tool. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, no, like you can
I'm writing notes.
you can use GimKit for anything as simple as just rehearsing vocab, or like Matt said, recording your voice is the next level. And then if you want to go the next level, the financial literacy portion, you can really expand on GimKit. So it looks like in the chat, people are being sold on it. Sorry.
This is the time we share, right? We need to connect together and what's working and what is not, because we do have, like, we purchased the Planet French one. We have Smash Education. So if we would rather have GimKit for everybody, I'm happy we can make what work, like, right? We can do what works for all the teachers, because Smash Education is one. Like, is that something, would you give up a Smash Education license for a GimKit license? Just, we don't want too many licenses. We put a lot of money into online programs, and I just want to make sure they're being used as well. So how would that, if we want to bring in Smash to this, is Smash similar? Because I know it's different modules and you can assign work and they can record as well. Or are they just totally two separate programs?
I would say they're very different programs, in that like GimKit isn't as scaffolded as say Smash. I know Smash has some neat features and you can play games within Smash, but GimKit, I don't know. I just feel like it's invaluable for like a motivator for students to get their work done. Like if you save it for like a Friday, and in order to participate in the game, you have to have your work completed, or you know, whatever. It's a huge engagement tool for me to encourage some of the weaker students to get all of their work done. But yeah, they're very different.
Okay.
And it's I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was like still like 40 to maybe 40, $50 American a year.
No,
it's not
60.
Yeah. Sorry. I think I'm buying too many. They're all like mixing together, but it's awesome. And what the kids love, it's kind of like the Blookit element, is that they can build their characters. So when you play these live modes, they're accumulating a currency that they can use to dress up their character with like different clothing or different accessories. So there's just like those kids that are really invested in gaming, it really draws them in. And you can also assign homework assignments. So if say you're working, like even with my intermediates, if like, you know, if we're doing something like Passé Composé, I can assign a homework assignment at the beginning of the week, give them the study set that you create. It's kind of like a Quizlet set or a Blookit set. And then you can assign it as homework, and they can actually access that outside of class time as a homework module. And you'll get all the data around accuracy, statistics around how the kids are doing with the questions. And then you can play like a live mode on Friday. And so some of the kids, they just want me to assign them activities outside of class so that they can build their character up, so they are proud of their character come Friday, kind of thing. So I don't know, they're very different, but I think it's definitely worth, I think if you guys play around with it, you'll see all the benefits with it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. I see Mariah has her hand up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to add to that as well, that with GimKit and like Bookit as well, I just find them more, you can personalize them a lot better to suit the needs of your students. Whereas, I mean, I haven't used Smash a lot, but when I've gone into it, I feel like it's very like specific what you have to work on. And I like that I can take a link and then just embed it right into Google Classroom or Seesaw, and the kids with GimKit can go and do whatever it is that I want them to work on. And it's a little bit more specific in that sense. So I agree with them that I find GimKit more valuable than Smash.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right. Was there any more, Megan, any other questions or comments?
I did see Vanessa's idea. She has a speaking and listening game where the kids are sitting in a circle and one person is in the center. So it's kind of like musical chairs variation. So you say a sentence, and if it's true for anyone in the circle, they all get up and they switch chairs, and that person in the center can sit down too. So, and eventually she's working toward the person in the center being the one saying that sentence. That's a great idea.
Which that ties in nicely to how are you encouraging your students to speak in French? So that's always something that I think is worth discussing and sharing. So are you playing games? You've already mentioned there's games, there's different apps. Like how are we engaging our students to actually get them speaking in French? There's Sammy, did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, so I started, ever since I've been at my school, I started doing an annual food unit, and we do at least one food unit per grade upstairs. So I have 4 classes upstairs, so grade 3, 4 or higher, and each grade would get a different food unit each year. And this year, something different arose for my 7-8 class, like, Madame, can we go to Tim Hortons? Madame, can we go to McDonald's? I'm like, yeah, we can go there, because they're within like a walking distance for us, which is fabulous. And so they want to know how to order food in real time in a different language. So their encouragement is being able to walk to a restaurant. Basically, I'm your translator. They're going to order through me, and I'm going to translate it to the person on the other side, the other end, and tell them how much it costs coming back. And that's their main assessment. But they're encouraged by knowing there's going to be food at the end. For example, my 5-6s, they want tacos this year, so we're going to have a taco food bar in French, and they're going to like puis avoir, and then they're going to tell me, I'm like, assez de, beaucoup de quelque chose, and they're going to tell me how much they want per se. We just put it on the plate, and then they assemble it when they're done ordering. And then we practice the manners and all that stuff too. So just knowing they're getting food at the end of a unit is really exciting for them, especially based on where my school's located. So it's fun. And I see Rebecca has something in the chat. I use Prof du jour as well in so many younger classes. They love playing teacher.
And so what do they do for the teacher? Are they the ones asking questions? How do they?
We have a calendar routine in all my classes, grade 4, 5 and under. And they say they want to be Prof du jour, and they'll come to the front of the room and lead the class through the calendar routine and ask them the questions aujourd'hui ça, and then they'll pick kids to answer. Qu'est-ce que tu penses? What do you think? Because we guess the temperature too, so they practice numbers, and they just like being in front of the room and being in charge.
That's great. We have Callie has her hand up, and then we'll go to Mariah.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hello. So this is my first year teaching actual, not online, with students showing up core French. So it's been a very interesting challenge going from immersion to that. So that, honestly speaking, in French was the biggest hurdle I was nervous about facing. My 5 classes are very apprehensive. I guess 3 French classes are very apprehensive about even trying to speak French. They're super nervous about getting up in front of the class. They're nervous about trying and failing and saying a word and having people laugh at them. So I have a system where I always give them the answers before they have to answer a question. And what their job is to try to figure out where to use those answers. So having cheat sheets for our Prof du jour in the morning we keep the same questions for about a month, and whoever is prof du jour that morning will get to pick which questions they're wanting to ask the rest of the class. And the class has a list of the questions too, and they also practiced and wrote lists of answers. So they just have to look at their sheet and have the confidence to know, okay, I've practiced saying this, I know exactly the words to say. And then they are using some of those words in just normal interactions when I'm asking them to afterwards, after we've practiced for a couple weeks. And they're getting a lot more confident using those like day-to-day type of questions. So it's like, what school are you in? Who's your best friend? What's your favorite subject? How do you ask this? How do you ask this? And then they have to repeat the question. So having that repetition has been really helpful, and also helpful for gaining their confidence. So I'm hoping in the new year, we'll be able to venture out, instead of just rehearsed answers, a little more free form. But for right now, I find that's really helping their confidence.
Wonderful. Yeah, just giving them, providing opportunities just to have them speak. And you're right, it is a confidence. Once they get that, once they're confident, hopefully they will participate a little bit more or try, right? But it sounds like you're building a classroom like that culture where they feel safe and they are more apt to reach out and I guess take risks maybe. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Mariah.
We're also doing a question of the day. I toyed with this idea last year, and it was kind of a year in the making. And I really wanted to focus on the same type of question. So 4 days, so over the course of a week, if I see the class 4 times, I ask 4 different types of questions, and then we repeat those types of questions over the entire course of the year. So my focus last year was the first day, we're focusing on being able to describe what we see. Because I felt like they just needed practice applying the colors and being able to work on describing where something was located, how many things they saw. So it starts on just very basic, like I see a red hat. And then the next week, we focus on that again. And we move towards like, I see 2 brown dogs beside, I don't know, a chair. And we really work on, I guess, scaffolding that language for them and progressing it. And then on day 2, we work on would you rathers. And then on day 3, we're working on money. So I put up different objects with prices and we talk about how much something costs. And then on day 4, we are working on time. What time is it? And we do a lot of work with randomizers, and it's all about building in spontaneity with it. And so every day, the first 10 minutes is a question of the day. It repeats every week. And I mean, whatever the picture is changes, things like that. But the topic and the language that they're using is the same every week. And my idea was that it's cyclical and they're always coming back to it. And if they're using it every week over the course of 5 or 6 years, then sorry, they'll know how to talk about how much something costs or talk about what time it is. And then my hope, like now that my grade 8s, like I'm really seeing a lot of improvements with them. They're able to do it a lot easier this year. They've been doing it now for a full year. And so my hope is then these 7s or 6s that I have, by the time they get to grade 8, then I can start changing it to more authentic situations. So I can put up a schedule and be like, okay, what's happening at this time? And they'll be able to tell me what happens at that time, or how much, if we look at flyers, like again, more authentic situations for money, they'll be able to take that and apply the language that they've learned to the situations. Sorry. And then we also will they always get practice time before we talk about it. So I ask the question, then they work with a partner to come up with their answer. And that gives them the confidence. Then when I ask them what the answer is, I have a lot more people participating, willing to share. So that's been working really well. And that's been a huge success. And I keep adding to it. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing.
In the chat, we had a few more suggestions. So, and I'm sorry, I don't have everyone's names here. Someone is working on directions using dash and dot. So the kids had planned out their Halloween routes around town. Thought that was a cute idea. Using the busy pictures up on the board. So the kids are all talking about something they see, je vois, whatever in the pictures. And the prof du jour, somebody else had mentioned that as well. And a movie unit talking about your favorite movies. And the secret student game where at least the way I've seen it played is the teacher picks a certain student in the class and then describes them until someone can guess who they are, or the students have to ask questions. You know, are they wearing an orange shirt? Do they have brown hair? Whatever. All good ideas. And oh, sorry, and Phil is using AIM. Phil and Sophia are using AIM and having great results with using gestures and getting the kids speaking and answering questions related to the vocabulary there.
Yeah, gestures definitely help when learning a second language. And then if you have the plays as well, I've always had the students are, you know, they look forward to having their little, like you do at a puppet play or have them acted out, right? So it's a nice way to finish those units. All right, if we are moving on, how are you creating active listening in your classrooms? It kind of this overlaps a little bit.
Would be a really good one for listening to, if the teacher is the one describing, or if the kids are describing the student.
We've already touched on that one. Oh, I see Sammy has her hand raised. Thank you for participating.
If you're talking about active listening, the number one thing you can do is, other than building relationships with your kids, is doing units and talking about things that they're interested in. So beginning of the year, I always take a poll. I'm like, what do you want to learn this year? What are you interested in? What's going on in the world? And so we make a list, and throughout the year, we talk about what they're interested in. And so the topics we deal with are those that keep them engaged, because it's not just like, oh, we're gonna do verbs today. No, we're gonna do something that pertains to using a verb, using like je and then something. And that way they're still engaged because it's something that they are actually choosing to learn.
And that does change so frequently, you really can't plan around anything from year to year, because if it's a certain trend, it's gone the next year, or a movie even. So yeah, that's great. Idelo, someone's using Aleesha with a question every day. That was one of the resources we wanted to talk about too.
It was, yeah, Idelo's a great one as well. Mariah, your hand is up. Do you have anything to add? No. All right. How about we'll continue. How are you encouraging writing in your classrooms? So what kind of activities are you doing to get your students to write? We know we focus more on the oral and getting them speaking. What are we doing for writing? If there's anything you'd like to share that's working well, or maybe you're not doing a lot of writing at all. Maybe that's not something that you're not there yet. And that's okay too. Sammy?
Sorry, I prefer to talk than type, but okay, so like beginning of the year, obviously we don't really emphasize writing right away, not usually anyways. We recognize word recognition and being able to communicate. But for my kids, beginning of the year stuff, they love to talk about themselves. So Je me présente is that big unit that I like to do, and just to reconnect, because we get new kids in classes every year, so they might as well introduce themselves. So we do a little bit of a Je me présente unit where they create a PowerPoint presentation or a small video or something about them. So they do a little bit of writing just to get them to touch base with the language again, but it's about them. So like, this is me. This is what I got. This is what I like to do. I really don't like this. And they get right into it. So that was a huge success.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Phil.
Yeah, somebody earlier in the chat mentioned the game Frappe, where you write the words on the board and the kids have to recognize the words that are up there and hit it faster than the others. And so I find that's a great way to kind of introduce those phonetic sounds in French. And we always like spell the words after we hit it. En français, a good way to like introduce the letters without just doing the alphabet song over again. And then for the older kids, leading into some basic writing, going from that vocabulary and writing into just short sentences. The old model, do it together, use the model, go from there, and then do your own. So some kids still get stuck in just the copying, but at least they're doing some of, at least copying it correctly. So checking in on that and then trying to extend and see how you can make your sentences longer. But yeah, we haven't started a whole lot of that, but as we get closer to Christmas, I'm sure we'll dig into it more.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, Mariah, your hand is up.
Yeah, I like what Phil was saying too. Like for me, it's really about that gradual release of responsibility. And so moving from like modeling it and then having the kids have an opportunity to do it themselves and practice it and going through it more structured. So we use the whiteboards a lot where they have to maybe write the sentence on the whiteboard and then hold it up and show it. And then we talk about it like as a class. So they kind of do it themselves. So they're practicing, but they have a chance to kind of verify their answers. So it's very safe for them to try it and then check it. And for me, we've been using that a lot too with La Question du Jour. So with the descriptions, we're starting modeling it and then they have to practice it by doing it shared and eventually they'll start doing it independently. And then another thing we're going to do this year, we're trying to figure out like how to get them to introduce themselves more spontaneously. There's only so much the same thing that we can do. So this year I'm going to have them actually create digital breakouts about themselves. And they're going to, their whole introduction of themselves is going to be written as an introduction on a digital breakout. They can include audio as well. And then we'll move and we'll actually do each other's digital breakouts. So they'll be reading as well.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Devin has mentioned using Mr. Innes's YouTube channel for interactive as an interactive resource. Which one is missing? I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's cool. I thought YouTube is kind of always an abundant resource, but I tend to try to make a rapport with the students with like a certain channel so that it's not too scattered with songs and videos or characters. So Mr. Innes is like my co-teacher. So if I have a supply day or yeah, so that they do still interact and speak French and they get used to the routine there. And it's a small like introduction for certain topics that we're doing. So if you look at his channel, you'll see that it's just kind of like foundation French. So they say hi to Mr. Innes. We practice like welcoming someone in the class, but as well as if you watch some of his videos, they're quite routine. So you can pick like the ones that you really like, the topics that you'd like them to try and just be introduced to initially. And the reason I like this video is they hear my voice quite often and we repeat after me. And this brings variety to accent and voices or someone else who speaks. And so it gives their ears a bit of a break from my French to hear someone else's French as well. And because it's a video, he can go and explore different areas. And he'll take you to, visits France and will go around the Eiffel Tower using his bike and explain directions while he's doing so. And it's fun. It's quite fun. It's I think because and most of us might be familiar with using what's his French singing songs on YouTube. And we all use it. All the students know it for what's his name?
Greg LaRock or the other guy, DJ Delph. Who do you mean?
I'm looking it up. I'm just about to get it.
Is it Mr. Steve?
No, it's not Mr. C.
Steve.
Just a second. I'll get it in a second, but nonetheless, it's something like I'll use him often. Oh, I see. Yeah, everyone's typing them out. Alain Lala. Alain Lala. There it is. Alain Lala. And he's got so many different songs, and they're like fun ones to just kind of keep the grounding of the unit that you're working on. So like if it happens to be the food unit, you'll have this food song and they all know it and they'll repeat it. And so I use Alain Lelais personally because I try to avoid being so scattered for the students, because there are an abundance of resources all over. So such as we were just going over Smash or Gimkit and Blookit and Kahoot. And so it's like, I try to pick one for the students to grow on first, and then maybe we can explore a new one. So I find that Mr. Innes is good for my primary. I see that question there. So I think primary is quite the level for it, because I think when we get to junior's good too. I used it up to grade 4 and 5 because you just have to show as the video's playing. I don't let the video and I sit at the side. I like to use the video as kind of my assistant, and so I'll pause often on the topics that I'll go into it or take questions. And so yeah, I'll find that the more into the intermediate, you'll pause a lot more and ask the students to go a little bit more into the topics he's doing. But yeah, I suggest using YouTube for listening, and I guess writing. I would also suggest there's some stories. So if you have a supply day, you can also have a story that's read to the students. Very nice and slow, have captions on the bottom if it's required. And yeah, that then has discussion questions. I sometimes will pick a story that we'll explore for the week, and they'll have different discussion questions about it that they must write about, giving them prompts, and on the board they can choose amongst the questions. So they're formulating the sentence by putting different parts together. But yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Devin.
Edpuzzle works well with YouTube for junior and intermediate students. Edpuzzle.
Just kind of dovetailing off what was said there. If you want to use some of those YouTube videos, if you go into Edpuzzle, you can create questions around the Edpuzzle. So instead of having to pause it manually yourself, you can set like question time. So like after, you can do like there are easy French videos where they're walking around streets of, all over France. And then, you can ask questions about what was said. You can have text input, from students. You can record your voice, like reinforcing some pronunciation. So just kind of to dovetail off the use of YouTube for encouraging writing, Edpuzzle works very well for it. And once you set it all up, it assesses itself and compiles all the data, nice and organized for you to get some marks from. So that works well too for your supply teacher days.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I know the tool when you're doing slides, like Google Slides, you can use Pear Deck, and that's like a nice aside to your slides to have the students interact on an iPad as well. So neat. I'm gonna have to jump on that Edpuzzle. I've always been wondering how can I get YouTube more interactive. Thanks, Matt.
No problem. Yeah, it's great. Check it out.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. Mariah and Callie have hands up. Aleesha would love a full subscription to Pear Deck. Do you need a subscription for it? I thought it was included with Google.
Only certain features, and you
Oh.
can only get a trial. So some of my kids love the drawing one because they can draw. If you have a word, you can draw it, or the draw from a number to a letter, like matching or whatever. And that is only available in the full subscription. And I have used all my free trials.
Oh. Yeah, I just got charged $158 from Kahoot this morning. I only have 4 students right now.
I pay for Pixton already and Twinkle. I love Twinkle. So I'm trying to limit my subscription.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
How do I do that?
And Twinkle, yeah, expensive. And I was not able to access it the way I wanted to as well. So there's so much great stuff on there, but it just wasn't, I don't know, not techy enough. I guess it wasn't working the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, Twinkle is awesome if you're really just trying to find some resources to get going. You can go into their, I think it's their planet collection, and they organize it by year year 3 to year 6. But each year we'll have like food themes, shopping themes, traveling themes, and they're all in presentation, Microsoft PowerPoint format. Sorry, but you can export them to Google Slides. You just lose all the audio. But Twinkle, if you have looked at Twinkle, you get a free subscription, unlimited downloads. I think you're good for like 2 weeks. Have a look at it because there is a ton of like good curated material organized by theme, and you can look at some of the collections that actually will basically just give you a unit outline plus assessment plus material, but you have to pay for it. And after that, I think the 2 weeks, but for me, like the $10 or 15 a month or whatever it is, it's totally worth it when you're in a pinch for supply teachers or just looking for materials that support units you've already created.
And to jump off that, like, there's a lot of free days too that Twinkle will come out with. So if you check on the website or follow them on Twitter, they always have free days where you can go in and download as many things as you want through Canada. But like I don't just teach for French, I also do half-time grade 3-4. So I use it for math, I use it for science, I use it for dance and phys ed, and it's just absolutely amazing.
And with Twinkle too, any of the presentations that you download, I usually just drag everything into my Google Drive. So, but you're right, with the audio gets lost with that. Using your .NET in your Outlook, you have automatic, like just the normal presentation. I forget what it's called. PowerPoint presentation. You can drag it into there just like you would into a Google Drive, and it keeps all the audio really well too. So I kind of flip between using PowerPoint and slides now just because of Twinkle.
So that's a good idea. The thing I struggle with was like having students access it like after school. So if you're teaching, you have multiple lessons on a topic, and for students that were away or absent, I like being able to post it in a Google Slide so they can access it outside of class. So that's the only barrier I had with, but I guess you could upload it as a PDF if you really wanted to.
Would it save sound if it was a PDF?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't do any sound. In order to have the sound, you have to have it on PowerPoint, or when you convert it to your Google Slides, you have to use like a voice recorder. You could either do it on your laptop, or you could do it on like a free browser audio converter. But Google is picky in it. I'm sure, as many of you know, you have to have like MP3 format, and it has to come from your drive. So it is time consuming, but I mean, once you create it and it's organized, you'll have it forever. Okay. You can. It's just more work.
More front loading. Lots of great resources are coming in the chat as well. Live worksheets, wonderwall.net for different games to build vocabulary. TVOlearn.com has grade 5 French as a second language, has some resources as well. I'm going to write that one down too.
I ask a question just about live worksheets. Whoever mentioned it, I used live worksheets a lot last year for my intermediate students. I loved how, pretty much anything that evaluates itself is goal, and it was great. Like, they're pretty easy to create the files for students to have to, or for students to access and to evaluate themselves. But the issue that I had is they changed the program and subscription this year, and they limited, I'm pretty sure I was limited to like 20 students, and I had all my junior intermediate students on. So whoever is using live worksheets, did you buy a subscription, or are you just doing it for the 20, 30 students in the free trial?
That's Mariah. Using it for practice right now because they can verify their work. Oops, that's the Bamboozle game. Mariah, did you buy a subscription to?
No, sorry. I did not buy a subscription to it. I have been using it for practice for them right now, where they have to, like, I can essentially create a link. I have a choose your own board for them to practice different, whatever we're working on. And so I screenshot a picture or whatever the worksheet is. And then Jameson, close the door, please. Sorry. And so I screenshot a picture and then I link it to the activity, and then it just brings them the activity. They can practice it, they can do the activity, and then it checks it for them. I haven't set up full classrooms this year yet. I did last year, it worked. I haven't, and that'll be a bummer if I did see that it's changed, and that they changed the subscriptions, but I haven't actually dove in to set those up yet this year.
Okay, yeah, just a heads up, you'll have a surprise when you go to create your classes again. It also limits the amount of worksheets that you can create.
Oh,
And the Bamboozle, someone mentioned Bamboozle. Bamboozle is also an awesome resource. I love it for primary kids. Like you can set it up like tic-tac-toe. You can play games of like Connect Four. There's like these silly little power-ups, like you'll take half the other teams take half their points, or it doubles your points. And the best part about Bamboozle is if you want to make your kids laugh, it has a ton of GIFs within the program, like thousands of GIFs. So even if, say, you're studying animals and you want them to just learn basic vocabulary, you can just look up whatever animal you're working on and it'll find a hilarious GIF for like a cow or whatever. And then, so when the question comes up, and those are either, it's multiple choice based, or they just have to answer, they just find it absolutely hilarious. But it's another one paying out of pocket for.
right.
Mhm.
Mariah, I wanted to ask you, you made those wonderful interactive games, the dice games with Corey that one year, and you had them on a website. And for some reason, I always forget the site where I can find them, and they're excellent.
Yeah, let me find that site and I'll put the link in the chat box.
Okay.
And then, yeah,
They're so good for getting the kids talking and interacting and using the vocabulary. I use vocabulary, I also use questions, and it keeps them going. I love it.
yeah, the games are awesome. And there's so many different ones too. I know there's been a bunch of number games as well that Corey and I have been using this year that have been, the kids they respond really well to as well.
Good.
So I'll try and find all those links and share them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sammy, did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, so there's some questions in the chat about a shared Google Drive for core French teachers. There is one that exists. We started it before COVID and we did that collaboration project, and there's only 8 of us in it. So I'm wondering if we could share it with everyone else.
Yeah, just as a resource spot to
like drop our stuff to share, like that way we're all in it. 'Cause I mean, it's nice that 8 of us have access to what's in it, but maybe the rest of the world wants to add their stuff, and maybe we can share everyone else's stuff together. So if you think it's interesting, like helpful for another teacher, we can make a list of websites and just drop everything in there, or resources that you used. Like I know during Camp Franco Fun, myself and some of the other teachers were sharing resources left, right, and center. And it'd be nice to just have drop everything in.
Absolutely.
Yep, I think that's wonderful. Keep connected, right? It's a great way for you to work together. Don't reinvent anything. It is there. So yeah, I think it's a great idea to share. If you don't mind sharing that link, and then people can join.
I'll see if I can share it out. If not, then I think Angela might have created it, so maybe she can share it out. So I'll get in there and try and drop in the chat.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, just our session is almost over. So just thank you. I really appreciate the conversation and everybody being so involved in our conversation this morning. I just wanted to just go over a couple things though. Your Planet French, if you do not have it, send me an email and I will get an account set up for you. It ties in really well to A1, A2, B1, so our DELF leveled work. So depending on where your students are, it does tie in to that. So it will keep, I guess, fresh activities to help support the teaching of the DELF. Smash Education, if you have not created an account yet, you need to use our district code. So you cannot create an account without the code that has been assigned to us at Lambton Kent. So if you want to, hopefully you can see that on my screen. The code is E78DDE. So when you go into create, that is the code you need to have access. Podcast Facile Français is another website that you might want to look into if you're trying to find dialogue and different just teaching points it's a great site as well to check out. It does align as well with the Delp 2. So again, you can choose activities and dialogues that are for our A1 students or ones that are at A2 level. eDello, another great resource. Wonderful videos you can share, show them and get your students. It's a great way to get your students speaking. As well, or
If you
pseudo
haven't made an account
comprehension.
for that, use your work, your
Yeah.
.com,
your
right? To make
.net. I think it's .net. You have to
.net.
use.
Okay.
With EDO, you had just mentioned, I don't know if you guys have used Bukili, but Bukili it's part of EDO, and it's a reading resource for primary and junior students. You only really have one class within your program, so I had some issues of having 80 kids on my one account. But when I emailed Bukili and asked about organizing my students by classroom, they don't have means of organizing them by class. But what you can do is you could just, each student, you put the teachers, the homeroom teacher's last name first, and then you put their first name or whatever, an initial, some initials or whatever, and then at least it'll organize it by class. But there are, I don't know how many books, but there are a substantial amount of books out there, and they all have a test that assigns that will be assigned to the kids at the end. It's like a really short little quiz of 3 questions, but Bukili, really good little reading resource for primary junior kids, and it's all kind of in with EDO.
Perfect. Thank you.
We will have to get out of our link soon because the next group will
I
be
was
coming
going to
in.
say we do need to
Yeah,
wrap this up. So
Brandon's here, so just so that he can get
all
set up
right,
for-
so we will wrap it up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation, the sharing. It was really nice to have everybody connected this morning. So let's continue this. If we, you can always send stuff to me and I can share it out. But yeah, thank you so much. I hope you found this useful and you're walking away with something you can use next week in your classes with your students. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Sorry, Aleesha. The drive that was shared with us, it's managed by Corey Denor, so she has to send out the shared link. I can't do it.
Okay, that's no problem. Or we could start another one as well, right? If somebody wants to start one.
I can start it. I'll blast the code. I'll blast the link to you, and then maybe you can blast it to everyone in Core French.
I can do that.
Okay.
Sounds great.